Who can take a flower, roll it up and make it fine, sprinkle it with knowledge and a little bit of time, cover it with headlines and a sweet euphoria too. Cannabis Man, Cannabis Man, Cannabis Man, spreading news and joy across the land, diving deep into the growing green. Cannabis Man, we're all keen.
Hello, and welcome into another episode of the Cannabis Man Podcast. Thank you so much for clicking on the show. I'm your host, Don Kleppin. And if it's your first time here, welcome. This is a show where we're taking a look at all things legal cannabis here in the United States. I am a broadcaster in Chicago, Illinois. You can hear me do news on the radio on 720 AM WGN. I'm on Saturday mornings with House Smarts Radio, Lou Manfredini, and Home Sweet Home Chicago with David Hochberg. And I've been a personal cannabis user for getting close to 20 years here. I started when I was 18 or 19 years old, back around 2005, 2006, and I wondered then if society would ever kind of move into a different direction in terms of its acceptance and normalization of cannabis. And I used to talk about it, dream about it with my fellow stoner brethren, and it really is crazy when I reflect on the last almost 20 years how different things are now than they were then. It really is exciting, but some things aren't very different, and that's a lot of what we talk about on the show. And by that, I'm talking about the stigma that still exists and the negative connotations from last century's propaganda relating to cannabis. Those things are still alive and well in our society, and this podcast is kind of my way of bringing conversations and news and information, perspective, and expert testimony regarding cannabis to you so that you can kind of make your own decisions about it, whether you enjoy it, if you've ever tried it for yourself, or if maybe it's just been legalized near you and you want some more information about it before you give it a try. Hopefully you can get some of that from this show and it'll help you make your decision. But I started this a few years ago and it has become recognized as the number one cannabis-related podcast by Good Pods, the platform. It's also been recognized as a top 5 indie news and society and culture podcast. And it's been heard in 85 countries around the world. And so you are taking part in that journey right now by taking a listen. And I really can't thank you enough for engaging with the show and being a part of this journey. If you haven't already, please leave a rating or a review for the show. If you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, there's a way for you to subscribe to this channel, subscribe to the show so that you get every episode when it comes out, which is normally Fridays. You can also leave a comment on the YouTube page. You can rate or review it in many podcast platforms. So if you could do that for me, I'd really appreciate it. You can also follow the show at C-Man Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, and it's the Cannabis Man Podcast Facebook page and YouTube channel. And you can also stay plugged in by subscribing to the Weekly Chronic. That's a newsletter I started last month. It's kind of a companion piece to this podcast. I cover different news stories still relating to cannabis. I do more product reviews, just like I do on the show here, and I give you some bits and pieces of my expert interviews and some behind-the-scenes looks at kind of what I do for this podcast. So if you like what I'm doing here, scroll down to the description notes and click on the Weekly Chronic. You can subscribe for free through Substack. And here on the podcast, I like to speak with those experts in the cannabis field, like I was just mentioning, whether they're entrepreneurs, if they're professors or doctors who are doing research on the plant, teaching others about it, if they're people who have created a product or service in the space, if they're politicians, people who are responsible for establishing or enforcing the rules in legal cannabis spaces, which are basically going to be the foundation for legal cannabis going forward. I like talking with all of them, as well as other journalists or podcasters in the space covering it like I'm doing right here. And I like bringing those conversations to you to, I suppose, help move the conversation into a more informative and professional, normalized place than the conversations around cannabis have been up until now. Maybe it's different by you, but something that I always noticed before it was legal was when me and my stoner brethren, my fellow connoisseurs, would talk about it at parties and such, we always described how beneficial it was for us, what we loved about it, what it helped us with in terms of negative quality of life stuff. For example, I turned to it regularly as a sleep aid. Once I started using it socially, I found that the the nights of sleep that I got after using it were just the best I'd had. And getting to sleep at night was something I'd struggled with my whole life. That was a major thing that moved cannabis into the place in my life that it was a regular thing that I relied on it for. And yet, as many other people who I heard that from, that still is really not common knowledge. What is more common knowledge, it seems, from my vantage point, is the stereotypes about cannabis, the Cheech and Chong jokes, a lot of the lingering reefer madness lessons like, hey, this is your brain on scrambled eggs, your stoner friend is really like a deflated skin balloon on a couch somewhere. That stuff seems to be a little bit more prevalent in the lexicon than potential quality of life benefits that cannabis can offer, like the sleep aid stuff, like dealing with anxieties, like stopping seizures, the medical stuff that it can really help with for patients out there, and people who are just using it recreationally, a way of kind of, dulling the edge of reality, of kind of giving you a little bit of a buzz or relaxation at the end of the day, even if it's something like that all the way to the other end of the spectrum. For people like veterans who are dealing with PTSD or any kind of lingering effects from serving the country, or people who were born with any kind of disorder where you have chronic body pain or issues you're dealing with mentally. Cannabis can help with a lot of these things, and some of the research that's finally being done today is really opening doors and shining a light on the specifics of what it can do, and that's the kind of stuff that I want to bring to you here on the Cannabis Man Podcast. And today I have one such conversation with one of those experts. I am speaking with Elaina, who is CEO of Lehua Brands. They are available in California right now, and they have a fascinating journey, and she has a great perspective, I think, on what she thinks about when they are making new products, who they want to serve, and what they can provide to you in these different lanes that these different products occupy. So we'll be talking with her. I'll also be covering more of the sort of lingering battle here, the ongoing struggle between the DEA and marijuana advocacy groups who are looking to reschedule this plant under the Controlled Substances Act down from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. There's another sort of battle in that chapter going on right now, and I will give you the latest on that. Also going to do a check-in with New York's legal cannabis market, and there is another country who is looking to add itself to the ranks of those that have legalized cannabis for its citizens, and I will tell you where that is coming up. But for now, let's get into this show and open up this episode of the Cannabis Man Podcast. Hit it.
This is Tommy Chong, and you're listening to the Cannabis Podcast.
Yeah, here we are. And before I jump into the news joint wrap, which is my typical foray when I open the show here, I want to give you a little rundown of the most recent issue of the Weekly Chronic. Again, I mentioned this at the top. It's my newsletter that goes along with this podcast. And this week, the Weekly Chronic Thanksgiving edition, obviously a little play on Thanksgiving there. And by the way, I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. If you're in America and you celebrate it here, or if any other countries do something similar, I'm not sure if Canada does a Thanksgiving. I feel bad not knowing that, but I know it's not a thing overseas. And it really is a lovely holiday. I don't know anybody who has anything bad to say about Thanksgiving. It's usually about family time, indulging in some great food. Not everybody's into turkey. Some people do ham. Some people do prime rib. But it is a day of indulgence. You spend time with people you love. You have a huge meal, usually of delicious food. And in the case of, those of us football fans, 3 games now since 2006. The NFL puts on 3 football games, and was definitely indulging in all of that yesterday. And it was in my house. It was my wife Gretchen and I. It was very special for us because it's our second Thanksgiving as a married couple, and it's our daughter Violet's first Thanksgiving. And we got to spend that with some family and had some really, really great memories come from that, along with some of that delicious food. So happy Thanksgiving, a little belated here on Black Friday, but I hope you had a great day. Wednesday. And this Thanksgiving edition of the Weekly Chronic, I covered news stories relating to the Trump administration's nominee for Attorney General. Last week, I spoke about Matt Gaetz, who was the initial nominee for AG. He stepped aside, and President-elect Trump named Pam Bondi as the Attorney General of his administration. And I went through some of her history because she was the former Florida Attorney General, and she does have a relationship with cannabis based on her record. So if you're interested in that, you can find out more there. I dove into a little bit of a controversy in Maine. They did a cannabis recall over some testing protocols that have to do with mold in weed, but not everybody's on board with it, and there is some nuance there that I do find a little confusing, so I broke that down as well. Celebrated the fact that cannabis use has surpassed alcohol use daily in America, based on recent surveys. Very exciting there. And a study out of Colombia showed that CBD might mitigate symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. So I gave some specific information of that, and I reviewed a chocolate chip cookie by Love's Oven, as well as a little bit of a bonus review of a Georgia pie pre-rolled joint by Simply Herb. I got one of those and felt like giving you my thoughts on it. So all of that is available for you in this week's Weekly Chronic. Again, you can subscribe for free below. By the way, I don't know if you've seen this around anywhere, but apparently the cannabis industry is really leaning into the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and they're calling it Green Wednesday. I got a few emails from people in the industry. They have started saying that it is the second busiest shopping day for dispensaries throughout the year, obviously second to 420. But the Green Wednesday, I was talking about it with my wife, Gretchen. It really makes a lot of sense to me because think about it. The dispensaries, a lot of them are going to be closed on Thanksgiving. People may not even want to go out to a dispensary on Black Friday. They might be doing online shopping. Maybe they're going to another store. Maybe they're not doing any shopping at all, but just sitting at home and recovering from that huge Thanksgiving meal that they had. Either way, you know that you're going to be eating a lot on Thanksgiving. You know you're going to be spending time with family, which oftentimes can really be helped along by some cannabis. So I was thinking about it, and I'm like, the more I thought about it, the more Green Wednesday really does make a lot of sense as to why people are flocking to dispensaries. However, there is always the chance that this is just kind of something that the marketing machine is trying to conjure up. You know, hey, drive people out to dispensaries on Green Wednesday. This is what we're calling it. It is better than Blackout Wednesday, which is what the cops call the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, because people are, going to a bar or doing whatever before the holiday. Definitely recommend going to a dispensary aside from doing that. I think a dispensary trip is a much better option. But I wanted to know what you think. What do you think about this Green Wednesday? Do you think it's legit? Did you go to a dispensary the day before Thanksgiving and stock up for the weekend? Or do you feel like this is more like the marketing machine just trying to create something like Valentine's Day or whatever, but for cannabis? Scroll down to the description notes. There is a Text Cannabis Man link there. Let me know what you thought. I would love to hear your opinion about this Green Wednesday. And now let's jump into the News Joint Wrap. This is a wrap-up of news stories and events relating to cannabis in and around Illinois, all brought to you by IllinoisNewsJoint.com. It's the joint you can hit for all your Illinois cannabis news and reviews. And some of those recent reviews include Midnight Blueberry Gummies by Kiva, Strawberry Cough Pre-Roll Pack by Blaze, along with the Strawberry Cough Vape Cart by High Five, and Black Inferno by New Era. Dispensary Spotlight includes Aura Light and Know Your Brand this week, posted by Jason Brown of IllinoisNewsJoint.com. The brand is Matter, M-A-T-T-E-R. He goes through some of their products and what they offer. One of the news stories, or at least a highlight of a program that I think is so great, and I'm glad that Jason highlighted this on IllinoisNewsJoint.com. It's a Friend Indeed program, and it helps veterans. And this is a 4-year-long program so far. Hopefully it continues, but Illinois News Joint kicked off its A Friend Indeed program. And they say that they've provided more than 36 veterans with nutrients, grow materials, and hundreds of seeds to assist veterans in growing their own medicine, that being cannabis. As News Joint's expanded, the outreach for the A Friend in Need program has unintentionally been pushed to the back burner, but Jason says that they want to assure all veterans and supporters that the program is still in full swing. Now, he mentions that this program started sort of focusing on veterans who might be battling cancer, anybody who is in desperate need with personalized equipment, genetics, or other resources to legally grow their own cannabis at home. This sounds like a wonderful program, and if you are a veteran or you know one who maybe could benefit from this, you can find out more. I've linked the website and this specific article below, but you can always find it at IllinoisNewsJoint.com. But you can find it, as well as the other articles and reviews that I've mentioned here, along with regular news updates relating to cannabis here in the Midwest. All of that at IllinoisNewsJoint.com. Now I'd like to jump into my product review of the week. This is a time when I like to tell you about a cannabis product that I have been sampling during the week prior, ahead of these episodes. And this week, the Thanksgiving week, I have been working my way through a care package sent by Love's Oven, which is a division of Sweet Buzz, owned by Dracisco Farms here in Illinois. They do such great work. They're candy industry veterans. They know how to make delicious treats, and they expanded. They've been doing a lot of candy. If you've been listening, you've heard me talk about their Sweet Sparks. You've heard me talk about their peanut better cups, their mint chill cups. Cookie got creamed a lot of their Sweet Somethings multi-pack, which won the Silver Best in Grass award, by the way. So very delicious edibles there. But Love's Oven is their foray into baked goods. We're talking cookies and brownies and creme brulee bars and stuff like that. So if any of that stuff sounds good, check out Love's Oven by Dracisco Farms. Now, as I mentioned in the Weekly Chronic, I'm a big fan of their chocolate chip cookie. I thought that was very good. It's a nice snackable cookie, small, thin, crunchy, very good stuff. But I want to tell you about their peanut butter cookie. And I will say these reviews for Love's Oven do come with a caveat, because I got these products and I was still working my way through the Best in Grass kit. I was still working my way through some other edibles that had been sent to me. So I sat on these for longer than I should have. And with baked goods, anybody who knows what they're talking about will tell you that that was a mistake, and I fully own that. So take these reviews with that asterisk, if you like. All of them I felt were still good, but in the case of this peanut butter cookie, it was not bad. Not too crunchy, not too soft. It was kind of middle of the road there. The main issue that I had with it was that I could still taste the infusion afterward. You know, you get a peanut butter taste off the front. You get that crunch. You get peanut butter, and it lingers there pleasantly on the tongue, but then in moves the infusion taste. And that is something that I'm always looking for goods, whether candies, baked goods, beverages, whatever. I always think it's very impressive when a company can rid itself of that infusion aftertaste. If you take an infused good and you don't taste the THC, that to me is a win. And a lot of Love's Oven and Sweet Sparks, and a lot of Love's Oven and Sweet Buzz, their candy and such, you really can't taste that stuff. I was able to get a little bit of that in the peanut butter cookie, so that turned me off a little bit. Again, could be the time delay here, but I gave the taste a 7 out of 10, and I gave the texture a 7 out of 10 as well. But one more time, I think you should try these fresh. I'm certainly going to, and give it a little bit more of a distinctive review. So you should try it fresh for yourself, but I will tell you another product that I have been really enjoying these past weeks are these Countdown beverages from the makers of Wink. They're THC seltzers, but these Countdowns are a little heavier of a dose. They have 10 milligrams in them. They also have 100 milligrams of caffeine in them. So you get a kick of caffeine, a little energy, and you also get the buzz of THC. As I've mentioned before, if you've listened to the show or read the Weekly Chronic, you know that these have kind of fallen into my early afternoon caffeine drink window. I drink coffee in the morning, 1 cup usually between 9 and 11, and then between 2 and 4, I've been having one of these Countdowns. And I've talked about their lemonade energy. I've talked about the Berry Force energy. But the best flavor of Countdown that I've tried, the best Countdown flavor that I tried, in my opinion, is the Orange Blast energy from Countdown. This was exactly what the doctor ordered. This had a taste to it a lot like the old Orange Crush, if you ever had that. Or one of your maybe Sunkissed, the orange sodas from back in the day. I'm not a big soda drinker these days. I really don't have those anymore. But this Countdown THC, the Orange Blast Energy, brought that exact taste to mind. Except you don't have the calories that soda has. You get the caffeine kick, which is nice. There's no sugar in here. You get the caffeine kick, which is nice. There are a few grams of added sugars, but nothing like a soda would have, even a diet soda. We're talking like 5 grams of added sugars here. 40 calories overall, no carbs, no real, sodium or fat or anything like that. It's a very bare bones seltzer, but the flavor is there. And the caffeine kick, along with the nice mellow THC buzz, these things are fantastic. And I would drink one of these Orange Blast Energies every single afternoon if I had one, because it's just been so nice. I've talked before on the show about the dance that caffeine and cannabis do in my system. What I've done for a long time is I would drink coffee in the morning and I'd mix it with like a joint, a nice sativa pre-roll, or if I just had flour, I'd put that in like the Dynavap, or I'd put it in my bowl and I would smoke it alongside a mug of coffee. And that is my preferred way to start any day. I love that. And so in the afternoon, I'll still sometimes, maybe have a cup of coffee in the afternoon, but that's not exactly what I'm craving. I do like a nice pick-me-up, but I already had the cup of coffee for the day. I've tried tea. I've tried other things. Nothing really stuck until I tried these Orange Blast Energies from Countdown. These things, really, I just enjoyed the heck out of them. I'm definitely going to be buying more. I find that nice pickup of the stimulant of caffeine is exactly what my afternoon needs, but I'm not too jittery and I'm not, over the top with it. And it still pretty mellows out a little bit, after 20 minutes that you've drank it. 20 minutes later, it mellows out because of the THC that settles in after you've consumed it. So this Orange Blast Energy from Countdown, this is a 10 out of 10 for me. Love the flavor. There's really hardly any aftertaste aside from the subtle orange soda kind of thing, but it's not too sweet. It is very subtle, and it gives you a nice kick and the mellow buzz of THC. I found it to be perfect for my early afternoon. Try it out. Let me know what you thought. By the way, if you're looking for one of these Countdown beverages, or maybe some Sweet Buzz, or just, any other cannabis product to pick up heading for the weekend, I'm a big fan of the Sunnyside dispensary, especially the Wrigleyville location. Usually go there because it's on the way home for me from work. It's very close to where we are. And if you're going to the Wrigleyville Sunnyside or any other dispensary in Illinois, in any other legal state, wherever, make sure you get rewarded for your purchases there. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I am discussing the High Rewards app. There is a link down below in the description notes. You can scroll down, you can click it, and you download the app on your Android or Apple smartphone. Enter your name, put in your email, password, and allow it to access your location. Because when you go into a dispensary, what you're going to do is open the High Rewards app, and you'll get points just for checking in there. Just for walking through the door, they'll give you points. Then when you buy your cannabis from the bud tender at the checkout counter, scan your receipt, you get a boatload more points. So not only are you going into these stores, ideally having a great conversation with a bud tender, figuring out a new product to try, getting really geeked before you go home and crack into it, now you can also rack up rewards points for your cannabis purchases. And these points are not just theoretical. These can be exchanged for real-world cash value. You can use your points to buy gift cards to places like Amazon, Walmart, Target, Xbox, PlayStation. Real-world cash value here for buying cannabis stuff. And hey, that's not the only way you can get points. You can also watch videos. You can take surveys. You can play mobile games. And you can share the app with friends. Invite people to use High Rewards. If they use your link to sign up, you'll both get points. So I love this idea. You may have heard my interview. With the guys from High Rewards. I think that their idea is fantastic. I think the cannabis industry can definitely use this. A lot of us modern day shoppers are used to rewards. It's really nice to see something like this in the cannabis space. And hey, because you listen to this show, if you do download High Rewards and you put in the promo code CANMAN, CANNMAN, you'll get $5 right away. No questions asked. So download the High Rewards app. You can use the link below if you want. You can also just go to their website, search for the app in the App Store, whatever. But remember to put the promo code CANMAN into the promo box, and you'll get $5. Then you go to the dispensary, rack up a bunch more points, and then use those points for real cash value right now on Black Friday or any other time during this holiday season. Or just sit on them and grow a huge stash and dream about what you're going to do with it. But either way, you're already getting high. You might as well get highly rewarded too. Listener, my guest today, I'm very excited to talk with her. She is the CEO of a house of brands, and they have a lot of products which are very, very exciting. They're available right now on the West Coast, but they are rapidly expanding. They're moving into Canada, a couple of Canadian markets on the horizon, as well as some new U.S. states in the future. But I already love what I've heard in terms of their philosophy on products. They're very focused on beverages and giving options that include calorie-free, sugar-free beverages. And as I always talk about, listener, on the show I've mentioned several times that in states where cannabis becomes legalized, alcohol consumption just goes down. It goes down across the board. I think there are many reasons for that. And I also think there are reasons that people are cutting alcohol out of their lives that don't have anything to do with cannabis. I've mentioned myself, I still enjoy drinking, but these hangovers as I'm getting older are not getting any easier to take. In fact, they're going the other way. And so I think that there are many people who are looking for an alternative to alcohol in a social setting. Just because you don't want alcohol anymore doesn't mean you're looking to go completely sober. Some kind of buzz is nice, but maybe you just don't want to deal with that hangover. Maybe you don't want to deal with the extra calories of alcohol. And that is where cannabis beverages, as well as some other edible products and all of these exciting innovations in the cannabis space come into play. And so the house of brands I was just talking about are the Lehua brands. And as I said, you can find them on store shelves in California. And to talk more about them right now is the CEO of Lehua Brands, Sierra Elaina. Welcome, Sierra. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. That was a nice intro. Thanks so
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. And so did I before I, jump into the brands though and the products, which all sound exciting, tell us a little about your journey and how you came to be in the cannabis space.
Okay, sure. Well, I'm originally from the alcohol beverage space, so 20 plus years working directly for brands or on agency side, so have a complete 360 background. I think I started at Budweiser in Connecticut and ended up working, fortunately, on the Diageo brands on a national level and everything in between.
Wow.
I had my own marketing agency, which executed on behalf of the brands, too, for certain years. And so that gave me a great knowledge, I would say, in the top 20 U.S. markets. And so that's something I felt like I've been able to bring to cannabis that maybe some others don't have. And I got into cannabis, to answer your question. It was a personal reason for me. My father was stricken with Parkinson's. And so he was not a fan of opioids, but obviously as Parkinson's progresses and he declined, he was in pain. So I don't know if I can say this, but I used to, back in the day, bring some goodies from California.
Sure.
Because I had a medical card for myself and take them to Raleigh, North Carolina, and then drive 2 hours to Elizabeth City and to make sure my daddy could have benefits that I knew the plant would give him. And relieve some of his pain. So that's how I got into it. And like I said, I had used it for myself. I've had bouts of anxiety and depression my whole life, and had some medical reasons also. So I've always been, a plant over pill person when I could be.
Sure, yeah, and I agree with you there, and I'm sorry to hear that about your father, but it is cool that you were in a place where you already saw that cannabis offered a great alternative to opioids, for instance, which is something that, as we all know, here in America, the last 20 years or so, there was that opioid crisis, a lot of different states and a lot of different diseases and problems people have that where they get prescribed opioids for different reasons, and cannabis can offer relief, from the body pain that comes with it. And as you said, the chronic anxiety, the stress issues. I myself am somebody that always struggled getting to sleep at night, and that's kind of where cannabis came in for me. But it's so cool that you were forward thinking like that. And as you said, your experience in the alcohol industry gave you some valuable marketing insight. And now you're getting in on the ground floor where, even though we're a decade into cannabis first being recreationally legal here in the U.S., in Colorado and Washington and whatnot, it's still, compared to alcohol, which was prohibited in the 1920s and then given the green light again back in the 30s, we're 100 years into that industry, uninterrupted, whereas cannabis is just now getting rolling. So what's your experience, I guess, been like on the ground floor of this new green frontier, as I call it?
Wow, it's so crazy you asked that. So this weekend I had to sit and think and answer some questions myself because it is very different, right? I mean, cannabis is so in its infancy. There are days where you're like, I remember exactly why. For my daddy, for myself, I'm like you. I used to eat Ambiens like they were Tic Tacs, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of our health aids, which we'll talk about in a minute, is a sleep aid, because I recognize 70 million people suffer from insomnia.
Yep.
And every great day starts with a good night's sleep. You will see that in every piece of marketing, because I believe that wholeheartedly. And I believe that my lack of sleep led to some of my anxiety and depressions and so on. So sleep is just a must. In this industry, where it is now, there are days where you get it. You know why you're doing it. And everybody thinks it's so fun. And I had to answer this and I go, but some days it's really unfun, right?
Sure.
Like, it's the challenges. We're in a highly taxed environment here in California. We've had some horrible news last week. Another big giant, going into receivership. So that's happening, and I think having the knowledge that I had, I knew 2024 was going to be, let's just call it extinction mode, right? So it's happening. Not surprised to me, but I think maybe some other people are surprised at the severity. So what I have brought in and I continue to learn is that I am using this year, and I went into this year, Don, going, okay, I can't control all that. What we're going to control is us, and we're going to expand our portfolio during this challenging time. We are going to run very lean, so I've made some very cost-effective measures to make sure our business runs efficiently. One simple example is I'm moving into a smaller facility. I inherited a really big facility, and when I came on, I had to look at, every aspect of the business. And I think a good operator in cannabis, maybe 10 years ago, really was just concentrating on the plant and selling it, right? No,
Right.
There are so many other layers. It's a business now. So as I'm doing that, and I want to say, with all respect, cleaning up California, or our efforts in California, we're going to expand. I've always said that. Let's go make our money elsewhere, build the brand name, and build the story. So we did open Ontario in May, and excited about that, which now makes us international and continues to tell our story. We're expanding in Canada, and then, like you had mentioned in the opening, we've got another state that we should be signing to expand in early 25. So why it's still facing these challenges every day. I think coming from the AlcBev 3-tier system is very easy for me, because I grew up in it, right? Having a supplier to distributor to retail. So that is the way this will go once this thing goes federal. So that's really common for me. The AR system is very different than it is in AlcBev, because you don't pay your bills, you don't get serviced, right? Here in cannabis, there's been a history of they just kept extending credit. And I think that's where some people have fallen into trouble.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, right. It's been a domino effect. So we are very, I'm very mindful of the accounts we do sell to. We want to be good partners to them, but I also ask that they be a good partner to us, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're with that. And then building a brand. You build brands at local level. And I think people in this industry, because it's so new, don't have the luxury of having a Diageo training, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really helped me a lot as I continue our footprint and our plan.
That's so cool. You said a lot of really cool things there, Sierra, and I totally agree with them. First of all, I think your foresight in order looking ahead, knowing that this year was going to likely be a year of contraction, which it has proven to be. Whether that's because of the political election, the presidential election coming up, or it's simply because because, as you mentioned, there in the cannabis industry, you had a lot of extended lines of credit that you don't get in other places. And then that bill always does come home to roost and people not expecting it. Now you're left with this major balance that you've got to settle up like right now. And some people don't have the means to do that and can't ride it out. So, but as they say during recessions, if you're able to either acquire assets or launch a business in those times, that can long-term be a real boon. It can be a big benefit because if you're able to weather those storms or even start something in the worst of times, well, then you're just going to be running already by the time the good times roll back in, and everything is cyclical. So you know that the bad times certainly don't last forever. Right. But I think it's really cool that your perspective coming from this. And you mentioned because of that, you used this year to expand. And now Lehua Brands is international, as you said. You're in Canada, which is exciting. I know that there are a lot of Canadians excited about new brands hitting their shelves all the time. And obviously, you did mention that it's heavily taxed in California. And we're still in this place where, as I always talk about on the show, because it's not yet scheduled or off the controlled substances list, every state is like its own island in terms of cannabis policy. So California's its own way, and then operating in other U.S. states, they're going to be their own way. And it's just a little bit hard to weather sometimes, hard to kind of know what you're doing there. But... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, but again, that comes from goes back to my initial thing. Coming from alcohol, I had to deal with every state. So I had control states like Virginia, or Commonwealth, and Pennsylvania, and then Washington. So I'm used to, on a national level, having to manage those different legalities. I mean, try doing something in Louisiana where you have parish. It's different parish to parish, right? So...
Yep.
That to me, again, where I think my background really served me well.
It certainly seems like that, and obviously you're coming from alcohol beverage, as you've been saying. You did get training not just with like Budweiser, the ground level beer distribution, but something like Diageo as well, which is a much different brand, and that training obviously set you up for this house of Lehua brands that you're operating under now, and you've got a lot of different products under that umbrella, and a little bit of what we were talking about before the interview started. So if you can, tell us a little about some of the beverages that are available under Lehua Brands.
Sure thing. Thanks. Well, the first thing is I'm very bullish on beverage because coming from beverage industry, because what do I always say? First thing someone comes to your house, what do you say?
Can I offer you a drink?
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. And I don't drink alcohol. I was in the industry for a million years. I've never been a big drinker. It's just not my thing. That's probably why I survived so long.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah, I never had that Scotch glow, and I worked on J&B Scotch. It was my first big brand, and I loved it dearly. But like you had mentioned, everybody's got that bad tequila night, and we all remember. So when I was presented the opportunity at Lehua, I was really excited. The brand had come from Washington, like everybody wants to come to California. And I always say this, I don't care what product you are. You want to be in California, but can you afford to be in California? Because it comes with a price tag as an investment into market.
Oh, yeah.
So we at that time just have the sodas, which is the Olala brand. And just they're made with pure cane sugar. They're vegan friendly, non-GMO. And they were in the bottles at the time. And when I came on, we did a big SKU rationalization, right? Which is one of the first thing you do. But we have orange cream, we have mango, we have a blue raz, we have a guava. And then in the cans, we developed this year a orange cream soda and the root beer, which is 10 milligrams, and that's the one that just won silver at the California State Fair.
Oh my, those all sound so delicious.
So
by
great.
The way, I mean, I would love to try any one of those because those flavors are literally like when I was young and drinking soda more. All of those were on my list. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I always go it's summer bottle when they were in bottles. But recognizing also, Don, talking about the industry again, like bottles are hard in cannabis to move. They're heavy. They take up a lot of space on the van. So again, moved us into cans. So we have a diverse portfolio. Then we have Voila, which is our mineral water, which I love. It's 0 carbs, 0 calories, 0 sugar. I always say we're the Perrier of cannabis because it is a consumption beverage. It's low dose, right? So you can enjoy it with a meal. And you spoke about in the introduction about hangovers or, what you want to stay social and feel, a buzz or a little relaxed, this is perfect because you can control it. And so our flavors are cucumber mint, which is my personal favorite, watermelon, we have lime, peach pear, and pineapple strawberry.
Wow. Those sound great too.
Yeah, and they're so refreshing. And again, 0 carbs, 0 calories, 0 sugar.
Yeah, you can't beat that for a beverage.
No, not at all. And then we have the Refresh line, which I think I mentioned when you and I were speaking, and that is our non-carbonated line. So Refresh has a mango tea and a strawberry lemonade, which just won gold at the California State Fair. So we're super proud that we are not the biggest brand on the shelf, but I'm going to tell you, I think we're we're the house of innovation right now.
Yeah.
With everything that's going on, that we're coming out with new SKUs. So that one again won, and those are made with pure cane sugar, vegan-friendly, non-GMO. Then we have the Refresh shots. We launched 2 of those because I recognize that people are at different places in their cannabis journey, and California is a legacy state. So I have people that can do 5-10 milligrams. Some people can do 100.
Sure.
So recognizing the market had a call for 100 milligram shots. We did sour apple and fruit punch. And then we are launching 3 new flavors, which are sugar-free shots at the end of this month. Grape, watermelon, and strawberry lemonade. And those 3 will launch at the end of the month.
Oh my gosh. That's so,
Yeah.
I mean, all of there's so much delicious stuff that's sounding there. And as you say, they're in different categories. If you're a soda drinker, you got that. If you're a non-soda drinker, mineral water sounds very refreshing too. And then the non-carbonated stuff, teas, lemonades, and now you've got these shots as well, all of which the flavors of which sound completely appetizing, all of them.
Thank you.
And I just, recognizing that there is a different market, whereas you say the sort of consumable chill drinkers around dinner, having a mineral water or a refresh beverage when you're around the table or in the summertime, you're at a barbecue or something like that. As you say, bullish on beverage, I think, is the right place to be because that is the thing that's going to fill that void when people step away from alcohol for whatever reason. Correct. It's beverages. That's been part of human nature for millennia, or the earliest evidence we have of people is like brewing beers and wines around whatever fire they were having their dinners around, in the nomadic sort of tribes that they were gathering. And that is not going to change anytime soon. It's sharing drinks, sharing meals with people. That is critical to kind of what makes us human. And I think making these cannabis products that offer something different than alcohol, but still check that box, I think that's critical for normalizing it going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, my hope is, at least in 2 years, I always say this, and I do sell vapes, I'll talk about our vape line, but you're never going to be able to smoke at the crypto.com. I'm going to always call it, the Staples Center because I'm old.
Right.
But you're never going to be able to smoke there, but you're going to be able to enjoy a voila there.
Yes,
very
indeed.
soon, if all goes willing. We also have recognizing, we talked a little bit about my dad and the importance of the health and wellness aspect of the plant, and for me personally with the insomnia. So I normally don't get emotional about business, but this is one product that I went to our formulator and my team, and that was another change for us to bring in a true formulator that is well known in CPG industries across the U.S. And he is just amazing, has made the difference in all those flavors. But we created a line called Live Oro, Live Gold. And it is going to be our line that's dedicated to health and wellness. And the first product that is out is the Sleep Aid. And it's in a black cherry pomegranate flavor.
Wow.
Again, 0 sugar. We've got 2 versions. One does have melatonin, and then I recognize that some people are melatonin resistant. So the other the other version, is valerian root. But again, we use all natural supplements, magnesium, lavender, all other kind of great stuff. And then black cherry alone has some sleep components to it. So very excited about that launch. We did a kind of a soft launch in early May, and it sold out. So we're full steam ahead with that. One's happening as we speak. And then, recognizing where Lehua started, they had a vape brand back when they first started this company, and it had won some awards. It won an Emerald Cup for the extraction team, and I still have the same extraction team with the company. So we created a new line called Smoking Section, a vape line, which is a very premium looking packaging, a little bit of more sophisticated packaging than you might see maybe from some of my competitors. But it's organic, sun-grown cannabis from NorCal. We craft everything entirely in-house. So whole plant extraction and our hand-selected terpenes. We can do white label for stores. It's filtered 5 times for the purest high, and comes, like I said, in a custom-made ceramic cartridge. So that, again, I feel separates us from some of our competitors. And
wow.
We're just excited. Like you said, we're in a time of a distressed mode in the industry, but, I'm older. And I'll say, 2008 was horrible for me as a poor single mother and getting laid off, but it's kind of like .com, right? And out of that challenging time for that challenging industry, some people rose to the top, like you had mentioned, right? So this is a time, if you can survive this, and we're very fortunate that we can, we planned for it. So we're good. We're actually coming in under budget and have zero debt, which is not something a lot of brands can say.
Wow.
And constantly just striving to be, I always say, lean asset, low risk model, because that's what you need to do. So that's where we are, and we couldn't be more actually excited about the industry.
Yeah, and Sierra, I mean, again, a lot of cool stuff there. I'm very interested in your process that you were talking about with the vape lines. It certainly sounds like those are more premium offerings than what a lot of competitors do offer. And when you mentioned the in-house production of that, making it from plant to the concentrate, being able to control the whole plant, what goes into the concentrate, and then, being able to select terpenes, those kinds of things. The companies who are at all able to do it that way, they do end up with a noticeably better product than some of the ones who are taking pieces of the plant or are doing it a sort of different way, where maybe they're having a production facility do it outside of their own, house of brands or whatever, that they bring in whatever that product is and kind of do it a different way. It sounds to me already like you guys are doing it the right way, and I don't, I share your excitement, because it seems like, again, you're coming at this from the right philosophy, and your product, the way that you guys go about making your products and your reasons behind doing it, I think people are going to respond to it, and it's very exciting that you're continuing to expand it. Let me ask, you said that there is another state that you guys are looking to deal with next year. I'm here in Illinois, and I'm just salivating at listening at some of these products. Do you have any plans to eventually, expand into this land of Lincoln here?
Well, I'm actually, don't let the Southern accent fool you. I went to J. Edgar Hoover Elementary in Schaumburg, Illinois.
Oh, and, right on.
And my best friend actually lives right there in Logan Square, so I'm in and out of Chicago quite a bit.
Oh, that's great.
So it is one of the markets as the footprint develops. So I'm going to get this first deal done. It's not Illinois, it's a neighboring state. I'll just leave it at that.
Got it.
Until it's signed. And so that meeting, we've been going back and forth for about 6 months, because I needed, again, California has to be my focus. It's our home base, and you got to own your backyard. But they have been wonderful partners and patients. So I actually have a meeting with them on the 30th of October, and hopefully we can just come to the middle on some of these little items and be ready to make a big announcement. And then the East Coast, Don, has always been of interest to me. I did a big road trip last year, and I'm from the South, and I've lived in New York and Connecticut and Virginia and North Carolina. So the 95 corridor is very easy for me to manage. I know those markets really well, and all of those are of interesting to me. So, knock wood that everything goes as planned, and, we hopefully can open more than the 1 or 2 states we're even thinking about. It's going to be, how the rest of the industry responds and where they're at too.
Sure.
But we're ready to come. Like, I'm planning, as I do budgets. And again, I think, my great friend Herbal Senior, when I first sat and met with him, I was at a brand that was from Colorado originally, came to California. And he always would tell me, he goes, "You're the only brand that ever came in with an annual business plan," because the industry just wasn't there yet, right?
Yep.
But coming from my background, you better have your year planned out. You better have your budget. You better know how much, every line item it is, and da-da-da. So I am, taking that forward and teaching my team all of that stuff too.
Yeah,
to be prepared.
I love that because it is important. And as you said, I think that, there are legacy people who have been operating in the cannabis space before it was legal, but that doesn't, that might make them knowledgeable about a certain element of the product or production, but it does not make them savvy business people. It doesn't make them responsible business operators, and not for any lack of desire. I'm not ascribing that to them, but it's just that's might not be how you're used to doing things, and that's part of the transition from the foggy landscape of the black market, gray market, whatever you want to call it, to moving now into the normalized light of day that legalization will offer. There are just going to be some the boxes you need to check. There are going to be some lines you need to sign on, and some, you have to make sure your T's are crossed and I's dotted. Otherwise, you're going to fall by the wayside. There are just too many people now trying to get in, and you need to kind of be on the up and up the way that you're describing, Sierra, in terms of having your year planned out, the budget, and sticking to it, and making responsible decisions like you were talking about, reducing your facility space and whatever you need to do to kind of come in under that, making some more responsible decisions to make sure that your brand can last another year and keep expanding the way that you're doing. I think that's the right way.
I really appreciate you saying that, because I think it's a sensitive subject. There's a lot of emotions for the legacy folks, and I have nothing but great respect for them. Again, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. I don't think any of us would be, right? But
absolutely.
As any industry, it's evolving. So you've got to get with it and get on it so we can all do this together. And it disheartens me at times to see, you'll in the industry, it's like any industry, you'll have some inner squabbles, I guess, at lack of a better word, or inner different ideologies, and that really, plays. But like I don't really have a lot of time for that. I'm very busy.
Yeah.
And I'm here just, to expand my brand, bring it nationwide. I will put my drinks against all the drinks in multiple states that I've tried. And I will say, if I don't beat you every time, I'm going to beat you in a couple of them. Because there are some really great products out there, but that was part of bringing my chef on too, was that he is a known formulator. He likes to say behind the scenes, but again, chances are you have either drank or ate something he's created. And so him working with the emulsion team and just getting those flavors right, because early cannabis, Don, was all about, we want to taste weed, and I am like, no, for me, it doesn't really taste that great in a drink, and I don't want to taste it, but then they would over sugar it, right?
Yeah.
And again, sugar's always been a dirty word for me, and I was probably not very popular 5 years ago when I would say sugar's a dirty word. Trust me, people are going to start reading labels as this industry grows, just like they do in their own food and drinks at their home, other, traditional CPGs. And now it's happening, right?
Yep.
Now I see Health Canada really setting the mandate that they really like to see sugar-free or no-sugar drinks. And so we were kind of ahead of the curve on that. And so I try to teach, again, my team or my partners, let's all just focus on what this will look like on the shelf set, say, at a CVS in 3 years.
I love that. Yes, absolutely. And your point is well taken about the sugar being a dirty word. It's that for a long time, especially here in the U.S., the FDA's recommendations for daily servings, they're still way out of whack, but they recently revised it to something like, I don't know what it was, 37 grams a day or something like that. I might have it wrong, but either way, the awakening toward the amount of just free roaming sugar calories that are out there, and not just necessarily about the extra calories, but what sugar does to the system and how much of it is baked into so many products that people put in their bodies without really thinking one way or the other about it. The word is getting out about that. And so I think your perspective, your mentality of this, of let's get some products on the shelves that already address that, this awakening that's happening, I think that's another great philosophy too. I want to ask you, Sierra, for everybody listening who's really, just like me, really enticed by the different brands you're talking about and the different products, where can they find, is there a website to find a store locator?
Yes. So go to Lehua, LEHUA, brands with an S.com, and we have a store locator there. And I wanted, before we kind of wrap up, Don, talk to you again about the sleep aid, because you and I both talked about having insomnia. So when I looked at other sleep aids, a lot of them were 100 milligram shots with sugar. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, that's not a sleep. That's just a get really hammered and pass out. I have to get up and work tomorrow. And a lot of them had a lot of the sugar in it again, because you're trying to put 100 milligrams in a 2.5 ounce bottle.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to cover the taste. And I go, spiking my sugar before I sleep makes no sense.
Right. Exactly.
Counterproductive. So we've taken, like you said, great care, great pride. We're not going to mince on quality products and taste. I really, when I came on, I looked at packaging. I looked at how are we producing it? I went through everything painstakingly, and I do what I call single mother math, because I was a poor single mother. I never lie about that. And my kids had to eat macaroni and cheese 3 nights a week, but at least you ate. That's what I always told them.
Yeah.
And,
right.
And that's how I try to run this business, is single mother math, and balance these budgets, and let's make some quality products. And if it means, honestly, if it means delaying a launch 3 weeks because my packaging won't be here because I'm getting a better price from X vendor, that's what we do. We don't over package our products. We try to be, environmentally friendly. And again, just meet consumers where they are. I'm a 10 milligram person, but I've got plenty of legacy folks that are 100 milligram people, and so I just again want to have something for everybody as we take this show on the road across the U.S.
Yeah, it's exciting, and by all means, you should own that. I love that single mother math term, and you should own that, because I think it communicates something, which is to say responsibility with no safety net, or rather with no give and take, because you can't afford to be wrong about the numbers, literally, in that case. And so I think it's impressive that you've come from there to where you are. And I ate a lot of macaroni when I was a kid too, and I loved it. I'll still eat it. I'll still eat Kraft mac and cheese, shamelessly, by the way. And let me ask as well, last question before I let you go here, Sierra. You guys have been operating in California. You mentioned that there are some brands there that have been not just consolidating, some of them having to fold up shop because California is expensive. Yeah. Some news recently from when we're recording this on October 7th here, that there is that Governor Newsom has signed, or is at least exploring, I believe. I might not be up on this, but I know they're exploring a ban of hemp products. And so I just want to ask you, are you at all worried about that? Does that have anything to do with your guys' products, or does that not touch you guys?
Hi, thanks for asking. Does not touch me currently. Listen, a lot of brands were struggling, right? And hemp is an easy way to, with the Farm Bill and the loops, that you can go to all these other states, right? And sell your product and e-commerce and this. I get it. It just, again, I was very focused on fixing my own internal house and making sure I'm making quality goods. So at this moment, that does not affect me. It doesn't mean I haven't looked into it, right? Because we're in such this unknown, like what is going to be the way? The election's going to tell us a lot, right?
Yeah,
but for directly, no, I'm going to focus on the positive that these on-premise experiences are going to start happening, so you can have food served with cannabis. So I'm hoping those licenses will continue to grow, because again, I think my products are so positioned to be at a cafe where you can drink voila while you have a burger or whatever your choice of food is.
I love that. I think you are positioned the right way. I know people are excited hearing about these, and there are some of those cafes starting to pop up in California, so it'll be really cool for anybody who's living there right now. If you've got a trip planned, which I'm definitely trying to get out there as soon as I can, I definitely want to go to some of these cafes and try some of these products from Lehua Brands that Sierra Elaina was just telling us about.
I will be happy. There's a bunch of them in West Hollywood, some really great partners of ours, and you have to let us know when you come, because they're not only a lot of fun, it's just such a cool experience. And my products are there, and plenty of other really great products, so we'd love to be your tour guide.
Well, I will. I love that. I appreciate it. I'll certainly take you up on that. And in the meantime, listener, head to lehuabrands.com, and you can find out which store has the products that is nearest to you. And do yourself a favor, go give them a try, because it sounds like they are top of the line. Absolutely. CEO of Lehua Brands, Sierra Elaina, thank you for jumping on today and giving us some perspective about your products and where you're coming from.
Thanks so much, Don. Thank you. And we'll make sure we'll get you some non-infused samples for you to try. And then, like I said, look forward to you coming to California and giving the real thing.
I sure will. I look forward to that as well. All right, you take care.
You too. Be safe. Thanks.
And there you have it, listener. I want to thank one more time my guest, Sierra Elaina of Lehua Brands. She is just a lovely woman with such great ideas. She obviously knows what she's talking about. She has great business sense, and I'm really, really looking forward to giving these a try. They are on the way, the products that they were... I am looking forward to giving these products a try. They were kind enough to send some over. They have not yet arrived, but when they do, I will be sure to give you my review of these products. But in the meantime, if you're in California, look out for any of the products we mentioned or just the name Lehua Brands, and let me know what you think. In the meantime, I want to move on to a news story that, has been kind of an ongoing saga this year, and that is the DEA versus cannabis advocates related to rescheduling of marijuana. And there is an update, there's a newest chapter in this saga, and this is from an article from Marijuana Moment. I've linked it below. The headline is, DEA and anti-marijuana group deny allegations that they conspired during rescheduling process. This is an article from Kyle Yeager, published earlier this week on the 25th. The DEA and the prohibitionist group Smart Approaches to Marijuana, SAM, who I've called out on this show before for being anti-cannabis, they have categorically denied allegations that they illegally conspired together during the Biden administration's marijuana rescheduling process. You may remember last week I talked about a lawsuit that was filed accusing the DEA of conspiring with this group, and therefore the lawsuit asked that the DEA be removed from this rescheduling process. In response to that motion seeking to remove DEA from the proceedings over alleged ex parte communications with SAM, the agency said this week it, quote, unequivocally denies the charge and requests a dismissal of the motion from Hemp for Victory and Village Farms International. Those are the groups filing the lawsuit. The article goes on to really get into the weeds of the legalese here, but this is really kind of just getting into the he said, she said stuff about the DEA denying what the lawsuit accused them of. Ultimately, the way I see this is that the DEA is never going to be removed from this process. I appreciate the lawsuit. I really do. I was celebrating it last week. Believe me, I've been banging this drum all year. The DEA is not a neutral party here. I've said it over and over again. They do not want cannabis to be rescheduled. It goes against their self-interest. So they're certainly not a neutral party. It would be great if they were not the ones in charge of this process, but they are. And no judge is going to remove them fully from the process of rescheduling. So I appreciate the effort. This is still going to play out, but here we are next week. There is the administrative hearing December 2nd to talk about this, and then the judge in that hearing did request more information about witnesses. Smart Approaches to Marijuana is included on that witness list, so the judge wanted more information about them as well as the others who have been called. They're looking at late January, early February for another chapter in this hearing, and I think that point is one that we're looking at to find out more about how this rescheduling is going to go. But either way, the DEA is certainly going to be involved in that, as unfortunate as that may be for those of us connoisseurs and, people who want to see this rescheduling process move forward. Something else moving forward, though, is New York's legal cannabis market. It is set to pass $1 billion in sales by the end of this year. Article also published this week on Marijuana Moment, and certainly a major milestone because the stores opened only 2 years ago in New York for legal cannabis, and they're set to pass $1 billion already this year. Last week, according to Ben Adlin here on Marijuana Moment, the article he published says, as of last week, the total sales figures stood at $863 million, almost $864, which is up from $500 million in August. That's according to data from the OCM, the Office of Cannabis Management in New York. The state is set to surpass the $1 billion sales mark by the end of December, officials predict. As Ben says, after a slow rollout in its first year marked by lawsuits and other delays, legal cannabis sales in New York have picked up significantly in the past several months. Regulators say that's the result of more licensed businesses opening up, as well as what they describe as successful crackdown on unlicensed shops. I've covered that here on the show, and I've reached out to the OCM if somebody would be willing to come talk more about what it is that they've dealt with there. But they have been talking about that crackdown of the gray market there, and it seems to be working because these last 6 months of this year, sales have really exploded there. And obviously New York is a hugely populated city, so it's not that surprising. But there's a ton of regulation and there's been a ton of red tape, and sometimes people are not quick to adjust to legal cannabis markets. They'd rather keep their dealers that they've known for years, and maybe they don't believe that things are actually going the way that, it's advertised they're going. So stoners sometimes, I think, might take a while to adjust, but clearly they've gotten the message in New York and they are raking in the cash right now. And another country is set to rake in the cash as well, as the Czech cabinet moves to allow cannabis possession and cultivation. This is from internationalcbc.com, the Cannabis Business Conference. And this was published last week on the 17th, written by Hazel Norman. The Czech Republic's cabinet recently approved a plan that would permit adults in the European nation to cultivate multiple plants in their private residences and possess a personal amount of cannabis. The plan, which would legalize the cultivation of up to 3 cannabis plants and set a maximum possession limit of 50 grams of cannabis, was originally introduced by the Czech Republic's Ministry of Justice back in September. The plan does not go far enough, according to members of the Czech Pirate Party. What a great party name. The Pirate Party. Sounds like a fun time. I would attend that. Instead of legalization and money in the budget today, the government presents Pasquil. They say you can grow cannabis, but you can't harvest it. To be able to grow 3 cannabis plants and at the same time have a limit of 50 grams that you can have at home is absurd. It's like you could raise 3 hens, but they could lay a maximum of 1 egg. Otherwise, you'll be fined or go to jail, said former Deputy Prime Minister and former head of the Pirates, Ivan Bartos, according to local reporting. Personal cannabis possession without intent to distribute was first decriminalized by the Czech Republic in 2010, and medical cannabis use was legalized in 2013. Adult use cannabis reform in the Czech Republic is part of an increasing trend in Europe, where multiple countries have now adopted legalization measures to boost public health strategies. Of course, got to look at Germany, one of the biggest examples of a country who's done that. Uruguay, the Ukraine medically, Thailand, sort of flip-flopping, but right now still legal there. Really encouraging to see these European and Asian countries adopting legalization reform. It's really great. There's more to this article, and I have certainly linked it below. I always encourage you to read the rest for yourself. Follow along while I go through these. Very encouraged by this, and I hope we see more of it going forward. But definitely something to celebrate, as was the Thanksgiving holiday yesterday. I know I mentioned it before, but this is the theme of this week's Haiku. And I hope you've been enjoying this, because I do find it a nice way to kind of unwind at the end of these episodes. So without further ado, let's get into this Thanksgiving-themed Haiku. Oh, yeah. Grateful hearts gather. Laughter warms the autumn air. Kindness fills our plates. That's this week's Haiku. And I hope you enjoyed that, as well as the rest of this episode of the Cannabis Man Podcast. Again, please leave a rating or a review, however it is you're listening to this, on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever. Subscribe, share it with your friends, and any comments or ratings you can leave. Really, really appreciate those. And hey, if you like what I'm doing here, subscribe to the Weekly Chronic. It's free on Substack. That link is below. Would love to hear your thoughts on that. I also want to hear your thoughts about Green Wednesday. What do you think about this new move by the cannabis industry to kind of identify another cannabis-themed holiday? I think it's perfect right around Thanksgiving. What, ahead of a huge meal, who doesn't want to pick up on some cannabis, whether you're going to smoke before or afterward? I think it makes sense, but what do you think? Let me know. Text in to Cannabis Man or hit me up on social media. C-Man Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky now as well, and we're on Facebook and YouTube. And if you've tried either of the products at Love's Oven or these Countdown THC beverages, would love to hear your thoughts on those. The Orange Blast Energy, my goodness, did I love that. So if you try it, hit me up and let me know what you thought. But that's all I've got for you this week. Tune in next week for another episode of the Cannabis Man Podcast. Bye-bye. Cannabis Man is 100% originally crafted by myself, Don Kleppin. Original theme music written and composed by Yusu Kim, aka Good Son.